What's up, Tanya? How are you? I hope that you are enjoying or enjoyed your trip to the Bahamas and that you had a really awesome time. Thanks so much for ordering this coaching video. And we've already done some work together, so this gives me a lot more insight into your question. But what I usually do with these coaching videos is I'll read the question first, and then we'll get into the discussion on it, and I'll come back and talk about the question that you wrote in, because usually there's some symbolism in the question that can be very useful. So let's go ahead and get started, and I really hope that you enjoy this coaching video. Okay, so here is your question, all right? Just watched your video about the vibration of debt. According to your explanation, I am dependent because of the amount of debt that I owe. I have worked very hard for years to be independent, but it makes sense that I am far from that. How do I find balance? How do I get my freedom back? It's a good question. All right, so you watched the video on debt, and the premise behind that video, if I recollect properly, is that if somebody has this experience going on where they're carrying a large amount of debt, there's usually this underlying belief that I need others to prop me up somehow, okay? So, and in this case, I think with you, we're not really so much talking about other individual people, but if it's debt, we're probably looking at financial institutions, loans, grants. Well, grants are not debt, but loans, financing, that kind of stuff, okay? Now, and to be fair, it's okay to have debts. There's nothing wrong with having debts, but because we're asking this question, we want to talk about this a little bit. One thing that I know from working with you is that one of the experiences that you have is that money will come in and then it goes out. So if I remember correctly from one of our first calls, that was one of the things that you reiterated several times was, you know, I'll get this influx of cash, or I'll have a really good month, and then some major expense happens and it has to go out, okay? And so, you know, when we're talking about this independence, dependence thing, I do think that that's an important factor, but I think for you, there's a little bit more going on that's more significant than the independence, dependence factor, because you are making money. Okay, so, you know, if you were not bringing in enough money to sustain a business, if you were not bringing in enough money to keep everything going, you know, and if we were to take out all of these major expenses, there probably wouldn't be much debt, is my assumption. Okay, so what I think is going on in a large way is that it's the outgoing that is putting you in this position where then you need to lean on loans or credit cards or whatever variety of debt is your pleasure, okay? But I feel like that's kind of what's leading into the need to be dependent. And so I think there's something more important for us to talk about here when we talk about this particular issue. And I don't think we've talked about this, so this will be helpful. And it's the idea that I get the impression that there is this feeling like there's some kind of price to pay for your abundance. That if you make a lot, you have to somehow prove your worth for it, or maybe that you're not just worthy of it as you are. And so if we look at this question, okay, so, you know, I've worked very hard for years to be independent. So there's this belief structure, and a lot of people carry it, and trust me, I had this one too, and it took a while for me to work my way out of this one. You could probably do a lot quicker because you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth on this. Oh, there we go. But this idea that, you know, I got to hustle for my money. I got to put my nose to the grindstone to make it come in. In order for me to be worth the money that comes to me, I have to push for it. I have to hustle for it. I have to struggle for it. Okay? Now, a lot of people carry that belief structure, and a lot of people that carry that belief structure have the experience that you have, which is that they work very hard and they generate income. So there's a positive side to that belief, which is that if I work hard, money will come. Okay, and so you're having that experience where you're working hard, so the money's coming. You're working hard, so the money is coming. But the subtext to that is, I'm not worth it coming easy. I have to prove my worth in order to have it. And so at the basis, what we've kind of got going on is this feeling that I can't just accept it freely. There's always a price to pay. I can't just accept abundance freely. I have to earn it. There's always a price to pay. And so we have this thing going on where we're working hard at making money and then it goes away so you can prove it to yourself again. There's a price to pay, so the money has to go out. So the money's coming in and the money's going out, but it's this experience of you having to hustle for it and then you having to pay the price for it. So can you sense that there's kind of some shame that's going into this idea of earning money? This shame that you're not just worthy of it for being yourself. And I think at this juncture, this is a really useful thing for you to focus on. So let's talk a little bit about this. So, one thing I think would be helpful is for you to really meditate on the idea that you are supported as you are, and that you're worthy of abundance simply because you exist. So, if we're putting this in kind of a spiritual way, something put you here. And it put you here and had the intention of nurturing you to have an experience. So, if we're looking at God or the universe, whatever, however you want to explain it. But if we think about this, and if I think about Abraham Hicks, this is one of the explanations that they use that I think is really, really useful, is that, trees are here. They were put here by the creator, by the source, by whomever it is. And they don't struggle. They don't struggle to become what they are. There's a seed of a tree, and that seed of the tree is simply given everything that it needs to bloom to its full potential. It's given the light, it's given the soil, it's given the rain, it's given the nutrients. Everything that it needs comes to it. The tree is not out there with a 9-to-5 job, okay? Tree's not sweeping up the salon. Tree is just tree. And starting to look at yourself like this can be useful. So, you're just the seed of Tanya that is here to receive everything that she needs to become her fullest potential. A lot of times we have this convoluted perception that we somehow have to hustle and work our butts off to reach our highest potential. And oftentimes commingled in that is the idea that I have to hustle for my money, because a lot of us associate our nutrients through money. But money is just another nutrient that is here for you. Okay, so meditating on that idea that everything that you need is here to serve you, that all of the abundance that you need to reach your highest potential is here for you, and it will simply come to you. You don't have to work for it. In fact, it's the working for it, it's the hustling for it, it's the struggling for it that's pushing away some of it. Not all of it, because you're still getting some, you're still living, you're still going to the Bahamas, you still have it coming in, but you could have a lot more if you just understand that it's the hustle, it's the hard work. That's the missing piece. Now, I'm making a video on this, or I just shot a video on this yesterday. So if you watch YouTube, you may be able to find this, soon. It's not up yet, but soon. This idea that, another thing that would be useful is to look around, because if you look around at people and see what they're manifesting really well, you'll always see that they're doing it effortlessly. So I know that you don't work at a corporation, But if you worked at a corporation and you see the guy that's got the highest sales, okay, and I've worked in businesses like that before, you see the guy who's just like the top guy, he's taking it easy, he's walking smooth, he's really calm on the phone, like he's got it together. The guy with the worst sales numbers, he's the one that seems like he's struggling. He's the one that seems like he's working pretty hard. The other example I use is at the gym. So like when I go to the gym, if I look at the people who are really in shape, those are the people who, they're at their gym and they're working out, but it looks like they're enjoying it. You know, they're running, but it's easy. You can tell they're breathing easy. They're lifting heavy weights, but you can tell they can handle it. It's the people that are struggling, that are pushing and working really hard, that seem to be having the hardest time achieving the manifestation of the body that they really want. Okay, and so this is something to understand. And the good news is that you're already bringing in income through your work. But we got to find a way to take the hardcore hard work piece out and take it a little bit easier. So when you're working, take it easier. And you've already noticed this, that, you know, if you guys kind of take it easy at the salon, things kind of work smoother. You want to try and infuse that as much as possible, that, you know, it's just going to come to me, and all I have to do is really stay in flow and enjoy what I'm doing. We want to take this I'm working hard for the money thing out. We want to really start to identify that working hard for the money is actually what prevents the massive amount of money from coming. Okay, because you're just the seed of Tanya that's here to receive all of the abundance. So we want you to take it easier, and we want you to start to identify that taking it easy is how you make the money. And becoming observant, you know, another thing that you can do is to become very observant of how everything that you need is just coming to you. The things that are coming well are just coming to you. So notice this, that, you know, the things that are coming to you in the greatest amount, the things that you have the greatest abundance for. So let's say that you have like a really strong relationship with your daughter. If that's the case, I want you to think about how effortless that is, how it's just easy. You know, or if you're in good physical condition, notice how it's just easy for you to do that. Notice that the things that are struggling to come are always the things that you're working hard at, because we want to ingrain it in your mind that the working hard is a big piece to why it isn't flowing as much. Now, another thing that I want to point out here about the abundance manifestation is the subtext of it not being enough. Because I've heard this in our conversations, and I'm hearing it kind of in this question too. You know, you're making money, but it's not enough. I make money, but it's not enough to cover these unexpected things that come in. I make good money, but it's not enough because something may happen. Like, it needs to be more. It's not enough, okay? Now, I know that you want to manifest more money, right? But you have to understand that we're attracting the essence of what we're putting out. So if what we're putting out is, it's not enough, something may come up and take this, so it's not enough, I need more, then we're always going to be in this cycle that no matter how much money you pull in, it's not enough. So like, and you are having this experience where maybe you have a really great business month, but then something happens to prove to you that's just not enough, okay? So we want to work with that too. And this one's, you know, something that should be fairly easy, is just to start noticing that it is enough, and to start focusing on how it's always enough. I always have enough. I always have more than I need. Now, at first that may seem kind of fraudulent. It may not seem accurate, but hear me out. You're on vacation. You're in the Bahamas. You have enough to run your life and go on a kick-ass vacation. You've got more than enough. Okay? That's one of the ways that I might look at this, is, you know what? I always make enough to pay my bills, or I always have enough. I always have enough to make ends meet. I always have enough to live my life. I always have enough abundance to have fun, to go do the things that I want, to be able to eat food and have clothing and have shelter. Whatever you can reach for that reminds you that just like the tree, I am being supported and I have more than enough to live my life, to be happy, to enjoy, to have things that I want. We want to start speaking that message, that I have more than enough. And, you know, this is one of those things that I worked with for a while. And one of the things that I would always just keep telling myself, because back when I started working with money, I was probably about 30 31, and we were in debt, and we had our house was upside down. Like, it was a real nightmare. Okay, and so now, you know, money's like just not even an issue. It's not even really a factor. I don't even really care about manifesting money at this point, because I realize that I just kind of get what I need. So it's just become a non-issue. A lot of freedom there. Okay, a lot of freedom, the freedom from the idea that I even need the money, because it just flows easily at this point. But one of the things that was really powerful to me, and I'm going to pass it on to you, and you, if it resonates with you, remind yourself of this constantly, is that at the time it was like, you know what, I've been banging around this planet for 30 years, and I'm still here. I've always had clothes, I've always had food, I've always had shelter. Obviously, I have more than enough. I live in America. I have more than enough. I've got money in my bank account. I have more than enough. And just reminding yourself that over and over and over again, because, you know, a lot of times we take a very different approach to this, is that we look at what we don't have. You know, I don't have the Bentley. I don't have the billions. I'm not the one that hit the $1.5 billion lottery jackpot. You know, that's the way that we look at it, is what I don't have. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. Instead of really getting down to the basics of, you know, technically it's more than enough. Technically, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, it is more than enough. And just reminding yourself that again and again and again, because that'll get you out of this creation where you're making money, but then the universe shows you it's not enough. Guess what? Ha, here's a bill that you didn't know was coming. It's not enough. So that's a mirror of the it's not enough belief structure. And you're not the only one that carries it. Like I said, I carried it too. I totally did. But we want to turn that around, because we want to get you in a place where, you know, money is just one form of abundance, and you feel like you can kind of do whatever it is that you want to do, and things flow easily, and, you know, the money's just kind of coming in. It's really not that big of a deal if it goes out, and you just feel very relaxed about it, so that all kinds of abundance can come to you, and you can just enjoy and be released from this restriction. Okay, so that's another big thing I would focus on. We want to start focusing on the idea that it's more than enough. And if you keep telling yourself it's more than enough, it's more than enough, guess what the universe is going to show you? More than enough. So instead of an unexpected bill coming to reflect it's not enough, you're going to get an unexpected check in the mail to show you that, oh, I always get more than enough, because there's always more. Okay, so that's a big one too. Now, I do want to mention this last question here that you put in here. How do I get my freedom back? Let's talk about what your freedom really is in this question. Okay? Your freedom isn't $10 billion showing up tomorrow. Okay? That's not your freedom. It may seem where you are right now that if $10 billion showed up tomorrow, you would have your freedom. But that's not your freedom. Because the real thing that's holding you hostage here is the belief that money controls you, and that you need money. You need the money. That is your prison. That is your resistance. That is your restriction. It's the belief that the money controls me. I need the money. Law of attraction is all about detachment. Okay? It's about identifying something that you want, but really kind of being cool whether or not it comes. Because as soon as you're like, I need this thing, it causes you a great deal of stress. It lowers your vibration, and it blocks the thing from coming. But, you know, another thing that's a bigger thing to understand here is that when you're carrying that kind of a belief structure that you need something, it is holding you hostage. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, you can really get to a place where money is almost kind of inconsequential. Like, it's flowing, it's coming in, you got more than enough, you can go on the trips you want to go on, you can buy the kinds of things that you want for the salon, you can have the kind of experiences, you can go out to dinner at the places you want to go, you can stay in the hotels that you want to stay in. It's all flowing, but you can get to the place where you're like, it doesn't even matter. That's where your freedom is. And I really want that for you, to start to identify with the idea that Money is just an illusion. Real freedom is an understanding that just like that seed for the tree, you have everything that you need, that the universe is pouring down on you, everything that it can for you to grow to your highest potential. And that the idea that the money is somehow the missing piece is a very strong piece of resistance. Because we can't acknowledge the fact that everything is going well for us if we're holding on to this idea that I need to have a certain amount of money. Because here's the question, when's it ever enough? Like, if you were able to manifest $10 million, but you were still believing that you needed the money, at some point that's going to lead to some anxiety. You may be pretty relieved when you get the $10 million, but what happens after you spend a couple million? Can you already sense that the anxiety starts to creep back up? So it's not the actual dollar amount that we want to switch here for your freedom. It's the identification that your freedom is somehow predicated on the money, because it's not. It's not. So I think it would also be very useful for you to focus on abundance above and beyond money, and understanding that things are showing up for you very serendipitously, and that sometimes it's not even related to money, and that the money is just one way that you are enabled to do the things that you want to do, that you're enabled to go the places that you want to go. Because as long as you believe that you need the money, you're going to feel very trapped. And that's what's going on there that's making you feel like you're trapped, is this idea that you need the money. And I know that the world that we live in runs on money. I'm not completely detached from the way that reality works. But I have seen this shift in my own reality and in my own world, that, you know, you are going to get to a point where you start to understand that the money is just not even important. It's not even, it's just a symbol. It's just an imaginary number. And the funny thing about that is, when it's just an illusion, it's just an imaginary number, you can manifest it very easily because you don't care. It's like, you know, trying to manifest something small. You know, like if you wanted to manifest finding pennies on the ground, you would be able to do that really quick because you don't care, because it doesn't mean very much to you. It's just a cute little symbol. It's something fun to do. And so when you have that kind of attitude about money that's not even really relevant, it's just kind of fun to play with it, it shows up, it shows up, it shows up, it shows up, because you don't have that attachment to it. And that's what we're really talking about here, is trying to get out of this attachment mindset that the money is the end all be all. Because as long as that's what it feels like, that I need the money, I need it, then you're always going to be, it's like an addiction. You know, it's like me back when I was on opiates. I need this stuff to be happy. I need it. I need it. I need it. And when it's not there, I suffer. It's the same kind of thing, but it's just towards money. And so we want to start to open our mind to the idea that my abundance is flowing in many forms, and money is just one little form. It doesn't really mean anything. Start noticing that money is a very big illusion. Like, you know, it isn't backed by anything. It isn't backed by gold anymore or anything like that. So there's nothing really behind it. The government prints the money. The Fed prints the money willy-nilly. You know, the amount of money that a bank holds is way less than the amount that you put into it. The money in your bank account is simply a number somebody's typed into your account, and it could easily be overwritten with something else. It's all an illusion. And starting to making money less real will make a huge impact, because it'll make it feel like it's less important to you. And the less important it is to you, the more free that you're actually going to feel, because you're going to start managing your life on the understanding that the real currency that's driving this whole show is coming from source. It's not coming from money. And as long as you're connected with source, as long as you're in alignment and you're feeling good, and you've seen this, I know you've seen this many times, as long as you're in that state, things are working out, things are showing up, clients are coming in the door, we're having fun, getting along with my family members, things are getting paid, I'm having a good time. And that's the currency. So we want to make the money a less real currency to you and change it to noticing that if I'm just here, I'm like that tree, allowing myself to be watered, allowing the sun to shine on it, and I don't have to struggle. I don't have to work hard. I don't have to hustle. I just grow, because that's really what's going on. And the experience that people have that is to the opposite, all it really means is that they're struggling, meaning they're not opening up to the source. They're closing down to the source. They're not looking at where it's really coming from. They're looking away from it. So we're not looking at alignment. We're not looking at all that is, or source, or God, or however you want to explain it. We're not looking at it as our source of abundance. We're shutting our eyes to that and looking at the money. And when we shut our eyes to it, we're not open to it. So we're not getting as much of it. And instead, we're having this experience where we're looking at something, it's not enough, I need it, and it becomes kind of this addiction, okay? And so that's what we're really talking about here. Now, here's the thing, you've got money flowing. Money's coming into the bank account. Clients are coming in, going to the Bahamas, okay? Things are working out. So you're not in a position where you're destitute. You're not in a position where there's no money flowing. Like, you have momentum building with this, and you have had momentum building with this. So it's all upside, but you have to understand the path to more is getting over the idea that you even need it. And it's opening up into the flow more often. So it's getting off of the cycle of I have to hustle my butt off for this. Because hustling my butt off for this, working very hard, keeps me out of alignment. So again, the name of the game is I need to be in alignment. That's the true currency. Hustling takes me away from that. Thinking that I need the money takes me away from that. Buying into the idea that money is my abundance takes me away from that. Really want to get tapped into that. Okay, so those are a few of the suggestions that I think will be useful and helpful for you moving forward with money. Okay, so to kind of wrap this up and to bring it full circle, again, this question is really about debt, and this video that you watched about debt being a sign of being dependent on others. And like I mentioned in this video, I think there's layers to this with your situation. Because you are bringing in money. So this is not like I entirely lean on other people or other institutions to fund my lifestyle. Okay, so you are making the money. So that's not really the problem, isn't your ability to independently generate money. Okay, rather it's kind of this idea that there's a price to pay. I have to work hard, and so that's something that is being self-reinforced, is that you're having to work, you're having this illusion that you have to work hard for it because these big expenses will go out. That there's a price that's going to be paid on the back end. That I'm not really just entitled to the money. There's a price to pay. So that's one thing we want to tweak a little bit. Working very hard. The idea that it's not enough, that's another thing. And it isn't something that you mentioned here specifically in this, but I can hear it. It's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. We want to start beating a different drum of it. I always make more than enough. I make more than enough to fund my lifestyle. I make more than enough to survive. I make more than enough to live. I've been banging around on this planet for this long, and I've always had enough to eat. I've always had, a body that functions. I've always had a roof over my head. Whatever it is that you can tell yourself to remind yourself that you've always had more than enough, because that's the tune we want to be beating. I have more than enough. I have more than enough. So that the reflection is more, 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 rather than not enough, not enough, not enough. So you can have a good month in the salon and it just be a good month, rather than a good month piggybacked by some enormous expense. That means that you have to go lean on the credit card or something of that nature, okay? And again, freedom. Freedom is not in the money. Please remember this. Your freedom is not in the money. Your freedom is not in, it doesn't matter. We could give you $1 billion. And if you believe that the freedom is in the money, you are still going to be a prisoner. Because as soon as that money starts going away, you're going to start getting anxious. You're going to need more. Or your happiness is going to be tied to the money. We want to get away from that. Understand, your freedom doesn't come from the money. Your freedom comes from alignment. And I know, because we've had conversations on this, I know that you know this. When you're in alignment, things show up. things work out. Everything's going fine. Your real currency is alignment. Okay, that's what we really want to be focusing on. If I focus on alignment, I'm free. If I focus on the idea that I need money, I've put myself into bondage. Okay, so, and if that's the case and you make a lot of money and you have that belief structure, it's just golden handcuffs. It's $1 billion that's got you chained like this. Okay, so we want to get into the idea that the real currency is alignment. It's not the money. The money is an illusion. The money is not that big of a deal. The money is an imaginary number. Whatever you can do to make it just look like the illusion that it is, rather than something that really has the power to control you. All right, Tanya, I really hope that you have enjoyed this coaching video. I've enjoyed talking about this. This has been fun for me. I like talking about these kinds of questions and where this conversation on money has gotten to. So I really hope that you find this helpful, because you really can get to a place where money just rolls in no problem, and it doesn't even matter. You don't even care. That's where you can be. And it's a really great place to be. So let's get there, okay? Again, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching it, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.